Tonight on Northern Community News, we'll report on the latest CityLink developments, the pollution of local waterways and the proposal to privatise local fire stations.
Good evening, welcome to Northern Community News. I'm Ben Green.
And I'm Tammy Odontiadis. Reports that services on the Upfield line will cease on May the 1st are not true. The Minister for Transport, Robin Cooper, announced that service will continue with a break of journey at Flemington Bridge. The line will be closed at North Melbourne, but the service will continue with travellers bused to Newmarket Station. Mr Cooper said to compensate travellers for the inconvenience, travel on the Upfield line will be free. He anticipates that this will attract people to public transport. The Assistant Secretary of the Public Transport Association, John McPherson, is disgusted at the decision and the lack of consultation. He believes the car and CityLink once again win out over the needs of public transport users. Mr McPherson says that people will find alternative ways of getting to work and not return to public transport when the line reopens in October. The Minister says the safety of travellers could not be guaranteed during the construction of the CityLink overpass. The decision contradicts assurances given by the Public Transport Corporation last year that services on the Upfield line would not be disrupted by CityLink. Moreland Councillor Andrew Rowe described the closure as an outrageous breach of faith. The Minister, speaking on ABC Radio, said safety and time were the reasons and he didn't want another Granville.
The barriers along the Tullamarine Freeway have raised concerns. Barriers ranging in height from 1 to 11 metres are designed to reduce noise levels generated from traffic when the freeway is widened to 8 lanes. Transfield Obayashi Project Director Robert Cooper said the barrier height was determined by sophisticated computer technology using a model to take into account the number and type of vehicles and road surface. He stated that concrete barriers are effective as they are very good noise insulators. Essendon Labor MP Judy Madigan believes Transurban must consider replacing the concrete barriers with transparent ones, as concrete barriers were not acceptable because shadows would leave backyards in darkness for most of the day. One resident in Greenbank Crescent, Pascoe Vale, Murray Inwood, said locals were angry that part of the wall would be higher than the freeway lights, causing overshadowing of the homes from 2:15 in the afternoon during winter. He stated residents would be prepared to put up with more noise for lower barriers, and added residents were concerned about the effect the barriers would have on their property values. Moreland Councillor Andrew Rowe said Perspex walls should be used on certain sections of the freeway, as he believes over 100 homes are affected by the overshadowing. Residents can make submissions regarding the barriers to Melbourne CityLink Authority by February the 14th.
Prompt action by the Environment Protection Authority seems to have prevented 37,000 litres of leaded petrol and diesel washing into the Maribyrnong River. The spill, resulting from an oil tanker accident on the Tullamarine Freeway, washed the fuel into Steel Creek, where the EPA constructed booms to trap the pollutants. Media spokesperson for the EPA, Sally Gibson, said the authority is investigating all aspects of the spill and monitoring water quality in Steel Creek and the adjacent stormwater drains. Manager of Maribyrnong River Cruises, Peter Somerville, said he was on the river the day after the spill and the river was fine. He said the jellyfish drifting up from the bay were more of a problem.
Meanwhile, the problems of dead fish in Merry Creek and algae growth in Coburg Lake seem to be related to the unusual weather and the recent fires in the creek's upper catchment area. Algal bloom in Coburg Lake and dead fish in Merry Creek sparked an EPA investigation. Fish and water samples have been tested, revealing very high oxygen levels upstream of Coburg Lake and low levels below the lake. One of the contributing factors was thought to be the runoff from recent firefighting efforts. An investigation of Merry Creek between Normanby Street and Queen's Parade by Northern Community News journalist David Jones last week revealed no black water or dead fish. The EPA spokesperson Sally Gibson said investigations into low oxygen levels around Coburg Lake were continuing. Moreland Council's Paul Turner described the lake's smell as burnt and oily and said that it had not been cleaned since 1975. He thinks the possibility of further algal blooms is likely.
Great concern has been expressed from a variety of groups regarding the KPMG report, which suggests the partial privatisation of the Metropolitan Fire Brigade. While not identifying individual stations, the report suggests that at least 7 fire stations in Melbourne could be privatised. A union representative expressed great concern that certain facilities would be sold off to reduce costs, consequently reducing the range of equipment available to firefighters. Local councillors are also very concerned about the way the issue has been handled by the state government. One councillor stated that it seemed that while state government provided only a relatively small proportion of the funding for the fire brigade, they wanted to enforce their policies without adequate consultations with local government.
New pedestrian crossings in Horn Street and Gap Road, Sunbury, have sparked safety fears amongst local residents after an elderly resident was killed recently. The safety of both pedestrians and motorists have been called into question following claims by local residents that the crossings have been placed in extremely dangerous situations. Residents have also aired concerns over the lack of lighting at one pedestrian crossing on Horn Street. They believe that brighter lights and the relocation of some of the crossings may prevent further deaths. Busy intersections have also sparked fury amongst local residents in East Keilor, Monbulk and Kew. The intersections at Yarra Boulevard and Chandler Highway and Clegg and Monbulk roads have received the most criticism, with Vic Road's acting chief executive, Rod McQuillan, vowing to investigate the problem.
Over 830 Victorian students will this year participate in a new state government youth development program. 12 community service providers, including St John Ambulance, the Girl Guides Association of Victoria and the Scout Association of Australia, will host a range of training programs and activities for 29 participating schools. Both the Girl Guides and Scout Associations have united in order to expand the resource base and accommodate a range of different programs for both sexes. Training programs will be offered in the areas of navigation, mapping, bush survival techniques, practical management of crisis situations, and the development of communication skills. The Manager of Public Relations for the Girl Guides Association of Victoria, Helen Cameron, anticipates the program will benefit all participants and that students will develop good team and leadership ability. Executive Director of Victorian Scouting, Dion Ellis, believes the adventure learning format, a characteristic of the Scout program, will effectively teach students essential planning, leadership and outdoor survival skills.
And now news in brief. A report on likely air and noise pollution in Richmond accuses CityLink Transurban of underestimating key pollutant concentrations. The report is a submission to the EPA in response to the developer's works approval application. It calls on the EPA to reject the application because noise levels will be grossly excessive and the health consequences have been underestimated. The EPA is hosting a conference on the application on February the 20th in the Richmond Town Hall. The endorsed Labor candidates for the Whittlesea local government election launched a policy document last week. Labor, making a difference in Whittlesea 1997 to 2000, was described by the Shadow Minister for Local Government, Pat Power, as historic. The Labor vision for Whittlesea touches on every aspect of life. Central Ward candidate Frank Molino says the document looks at economic development, employment opportunities and the bread and butter issues of roads, rubbish and rates. South East Ward candidate Sam Alisi says the document was written after extensive consultation with the local community. And now here's Tammy with tonight's sport.
Thanks, Ben. The 1996 Leader newspaper Sports Star of the Year Awards are set to take place on February the 26th at Ferraro Receptions in Campbellfield, to be hosted by 3AW radio personality and Sunday sports show compere Darren James. Nearly 200 nominees stand a chance of claiming the prestigious award. Mr. James, an avid sports fan as well as active marathon runner, tennis and squash player, is thrilled at the opportunity to host the awards and says the night will be huge. Having hosted last year's Small Business Awards, Mr. James' affiliation with the Leader newspaper led to his position as host after fellow colleague and awards host for the past 3 years, Ian Cover, had to withdraw due to other commitments. Among those to have been nominated are over 20 Olympic and Paralympic game competitors, as well as several world standard sportsmen and women. Nominations for the award were taken in a variety of different sports during 1996, and the presentation dinner is sure to showcase some of Australia's finest sportsmen and women. And we'll be back after this break with Community Billboard.